Welcome back, everybody. This is Morgan Reynolds at Coffee, Cocktails, and Capitalism. Today, indulging in a lot of coffee, which will probably become evident. My equally caffeinated friend here today, Joey, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I don't want to screw it up.
Like zucchini with an L.
Perfect.
Yep.
Joey Lucchini, a longtime member of the community, has his hand in a lot of different things, is doing a lot of cool stuff, and I'm really excited to kind of get to know you better. My fellow neighbor on Main Street, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we were chatting because you have kind of a big business anniversary coming up. Do you want to start by sharing what that is?
Sure. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary of the barbershop, Joey's Downtown Dapper Barbershop, right here, downtown Vero. And we're really excited about it. It's going to be a great community give back. And yeah.
It's like a family fun fair.
Yeah, it's a family fun free day. Everything is free. So just come on out. We're going to have food and games, dunk tanks, bounce houses, a classic car show. We're going to, we have a bunch of different stations, event stations for the kids to play. We're going to have a live auction, hopefully, silent auction, raffles. So we have a bunch of good stuff going on, and the community's all participating in it, and it's going to be a great give back,
Yeah. And you're giving any proceeds from kind of all those extras to what charity?
We're giving all the proceeds from that to Little Board Riders, which is a local youth nonprofit that teaches children water safety, and we couldn't think of a better organization going into the summertime, especially here in Vero Beach.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we're very excited about that. I think that's going to be a great thing to give back, and all the board members of that organization have helped out with this event, so it kind of works hand in hand with it.
Yeah, everybody's involved, and no, I think it speaks a lot to your ethos doing business in this community, that when you're having an anniversary, your first thought is how can we continue to give back to the community. So yeah. I'm excited for it.
For me, it's when we first went into business, we really didn't do a bunch of promotion or a bunch of advertising. We kind of just jumped in with kids events and youth events, and that drew a lot of business to us. So for that, it's, that's kind of made us who we are. We cater to everybody, families, just we have a spot where it's very comfortable for everybody to come. So the community supported us for, 10 years, and we'd like to just do a nice little give back and keep it rolling.
Well, I'm excited for that. For the people who may not know you as well, can we go back to the olden days, back to the beginning, the origin stories?
Sure.
Where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Staten Island, New York.
Okay.
But I moved to Vero Beach when I was 2 months old.
Oh my gosh, wow, okay.
Yeah. So I did preschool here at Children's Discovery, which I'm sure a ton of people know that. I went to elementary school at Glendale Elementary, Gifford Middle School, and Vero Beach High School. So that's where I graduated from. And then I went to IRSC after that.
Okay. And did you know that you wanted to go into your own business right away? What was kind of post-high school, college? What were you trying to do?
See, that's where I kind of bounced around a little bit. I've done a little bit of everything. I worked at the hospital for a while in dietary. So I worked in culinary. I think my first paid job was Nino's Cafe. So I worked at Nino's.
That's cool.
I shredded cheese and sliced onions and, did that whole deal when I was 15.
Mm-hmm. Put in the legwork.
Oh, yeah. I've done everything from lawn service to culinary to you name it, I've probably done it.
Okay.
So I did that. My grandfather on my father's side was a barber, so that kind of intrigued that interest. And I started cutting hair when I was in 9th grade. A friend of mine bought a set of clippers from Walmart, and he's like, "Hey, you want to buzz everybody's heads?" And I was like, "Yeah, my grandpa was a barber. I could do this." And that's kind of where we started.
That's so random.
Yeah.
Did everybody really need haircuts? Why did your friend do that?
I think it was just summertime, and it was one of those, we were bored looking for something to do. And, I probably shaved 5-6 guys' heads on our friend's back porch,
Wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So that's where that whole thing started. And then it was kind of a constant through the years. Through all those jobs, I always still cut hair. I was cutting hair on the porch or just never really in a professional setting. And then I was doing some schooling with IRSC for business management because I honestly didn't really like being told what to do, so I kind of wanted to do my own deal.
That's fair.
And so yeah, so I wound up going to IRSC for the barbering program and completed that. And I worked at a little barber shop. There was only two barbers, me and an elderly lady who was the best.
Yeah.
Shout out Linda, taught me how to cut a flat top.
Oh.
And from there, I worked at a salon for a few months that wound up not working out, but I built myself a pretty good clientele. So I was cutting hair back in my garage after being in a professional setting. And one of my clients lived beachside, and I was living all the way out west of town at the time. She's like, there's a great little spot downtown for rent. You should probably go look at it. Okay. So I show up, and ironically enough, the woman who was leasing the spot, or who was leaving the spot, was my instructor in barber school.
No way.
Yeah. So she hooked me up with
Was
the
it already
landlord.
a barber shop?
It was a salon. They did a lot of women's hair and teeth whitening and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
And so she was moving back down south and connected me with the landlord. And it was like the sweetest little old lady,
Oh my gosh.
And she gave me my start. She gave me my unit for next to nothing 10 years ago. And that's what gave us the ability to get started. And, I started off in that same exact shop, just myself cutting hair.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then we just progressively
built it from there. Yeah. Tell me about maybe starting to hire people, because for a lot of solopreneurs, as we call them, that's a big challenge.
Yeah,
kind of a rocky road sometimes.
Yeah, that was kind of difficult. Honestly, it was a lot of trial and error at first. Our first employee was a guy who just came in. He's like, "Hey, I'm a barber. Can I get a job?" And I was very quick to try to make some extra money. So I'm like, "Yeah, sure, come on in."
Right.
And he was with us for a few weeks and then left. Just kind of abruptly left, which I've come to find out that's a common in the hair industry.
It happens. Well, especially kind of entry level jobs or younger people.
And then actually our longest employee to date, he's been with us for 9 years or 9.5 years, I would say, almost the whole time. He was at another barbershop and we had a mutual friend and he was looking for a new spot. So he came on with us. And then one of my best friends from high school, he was living on the West Coast in Naples. He's like, "Hey man, I'm thinking about, coming back over." And so I was like, "Hey, I'll come get you." We went over there, we moved all his stuff back, and that's how we started off with our first 3 barbers.
Nice.
And yeah, kind of just
been
progressively moved from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who maybe haven't been to your shop yet, do you guys have a specific kind of style? Like, can anybody come get a haircut? Is it kind of,
No, and
we're trying to be trendy. We're trying to, whatever type of thing.
We are just a classic barbershop that we cater to everybody. I mean, we do a lot of first haircuts, so we cater to children.
I love those posts on Facebook.
Oh yeah, older gentlemen. So it's from 2 to 92. We cut everybody, and it's a very welcoming environment that a single mother with a couple kids can come in by herself and not feel uncomfortable. And then, we have a bunch of teenagers who are too cool for their own good.
Right.
They come in bopping in,
Right.
So we have a little bit of everybody.
I see those guys hanging on the bench.
Yeah.
It's like the spot,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And then a couple years ago, you decided that you wanted to open an ice cream shop.
I did.
Yes. Tell me what led to that decision.
So that was a family decision. We have 5 children. So my wife would always go down to Pocahontas Park a lot, and we'd either have to go beachside for ice cream or, out west. And it was kind of one of those things where we were looking for something else to do, just to kind of expand. And, honestly, we looked on Main Street Florida's website, and a lot of the towns all had barbershops, boutiques, ice cream shops. So we're like, oh, well, that kind of fills a void down here. And I had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, it'll never work. Well, what are you gonna make 50 cents on a scoop of ice cream?" Like, "Oh, don't do that. You're just wasting your money." And we're on our 3rd year of business, and so far it's the best year of business. So we're
That's
we're
awesome.
cooking along. Yeah, that was a good move.
How difficult was it though? Because did you have any background experience in food sales or something that's, like the refrigeration and everything, I'm sure is kind of particular. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so for
I know
us,
nothing about ice
for
cream.
me, the food service, I worked in a bunch of restaurants and, growing up. So the customer service from the barbershop and my experience just in, working in restaurants myself, that kind of all played into it. And ice creams, we have very good quality ice cream, so it kind of sells itself. So that's great. And my wife is great with the marketing aspects of it, the social media,
Hmm.
so
Your stuff's always beautiful.
yeah. So with all that, I mean, it kind of just really worked together, and came together very well. And I think people enjoy coming somewhere that has great ice cream, but also is a family owned and operated place. Like they're not going to a Carvel or,
Right.
something of that nature.
Tombstone or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm. So how many flavors do you guys have?
Oh, I think we have 34. I think 34.
Yeah.
And they rotate throughout the week. So we always have our staples, the traditional chocolate, strawberry, but then the seasonal stuff, we have a lot of pumpkin pies and
Yeah.
so we kind of it just whatever season kind of goes with that. I know during Christmas we have like a peppermint ice cream
Hmm.
or like a candy cane, whatever it's called. So
Yeah,
it's pretty
something
good.
new and different.
Yeah.
I've seen people walking out of there with like some pretty giant looking monstrosities.
Oh yeah.
Is there like a fan favorite that people like to order?
So we have an ice cream called Butterscotch Bomb, and I think that is our biggest seller.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, that sounds good.
yeah,
What's not to love about butterscotch?
I know it's very good, but we have a variation of things, so it works really well. We have these like ice cream nachos, and we have these big sundaes, and we have banana splits, and it's cool because we could do all those items with any of the ice creams in the
Yeah.
in the display. So people really like that.
So kind of like a truly old-fashioned ice cream parlor.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
people ask us all the time, well, why don't you have frozen yogurt or why don't you have soft serve or why? And they're like,
sure.
listen, it's an ice cream shop. We do floats and malts and milkshakes and so we just kind of honestly when we first started, we just try to keep it very simple to get the process of it down,
Hmm.
and it worked. It's kind of one of those rather be better at less than
Yeah.
mediocre at a bunch. So
Right.
that's kind of how we kept it.
Would you say that that holds true at the barbershop as well? Trying to keep it a little bit more simple and
Yeah,
streamlined.
I think so. And I think what works for us at the barbershop is we're one of the only walk-in only barbershops left in town.
Mm.
A lot of places, say they accept walk-ins, but most of them are appointment based. So if you don't have an appointment and you sit there for, I mean, don't get me wrong, we have a long wait on Fridays and Saturdays.
Sometimes there's quite a line.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we do have 10 barbers, so it goes pretty quick if you're not waiting on a particular guy.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's just instead of trying to do appointments and do this and just confusing the whole thing with scheduling apps and, with all this new technology that, helps with that stuff to, somebody else's business model is great. But for us, we just keep it very simple. It's walk-ins only. We go off an old school sign-in sheet, piece of paper with your name and your preferred barber, and we just run it that way.
Yeah. I say to people a lot of times there's so many different ways that you can run a business. There's not one way to be successful. So I think that's cool that you guys figured out that's what works for you.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of people, why don't you take appointments and why don't you do this and why don't you do that? There's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of barbers that are appointment only and they're very successful with it.
Yeah.
But for us, we have such a large clientele that I believe if we tried to do both, it would just kind of hinder our clientele on a whole and we would lose some people.
Some business. Yeah. Yeah. Because part of running a business is knowing how you as a business owner like to function, and the people that you've recruited to work with you kind of, I think a lot of times are people that then work with your vibe, for lack of a better word.
Listen,
right?
You're lucky I'm on time here today. I can't hold a schedule for to save my life. So that's one of the reasons I don't schedule appointments.
As somebody who's a little too German to function without appointments, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I just have so much going on that I never know where the day's going to take me. So at this point, it's like If I'm there, I'll cut your hair. If I'm not, catch you next time. It works out pretty well.
Well, you've been doing it a long time, so it must be working out. So when you're not cutting hair or scooping ice cream, what are some other things that you're doing?
Um, well, like I mentioned, we have 5 kids, so we have a lot of
That'll keep you
school
busy.
events, a lot of
Yeah.
sporting events. We're
What's the
also
oldest and what's the youngest?
so our oldest is 16
Hmm.
and the youngest is 4.
Oh my
So we have
gosh.
a very wide range right there.
Yeah.
So if it's gymnastics or football or baseball or volleyball, depends on what season we're in. We're typically at a ball field, or we also participate in our IRC-YLH, which is the youth livestock.
Hmm.
So we show cows and pigs and chickens, and I think we're doing goats this year.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah,
You
so
don't know
there's a
for
lot.
sure yet.
No, we're still waiting on that one.
I got it.
But
So do you keep all these animals at your place? Do you guys have like a farm?
so my in-laws have a nice sized piece of property with a huge barn and a bunch of turnouts, and they're gracious enough to let us use their property. That you know works out great for us because it's right down the road from our house. So it's a hop, skip, and a jump. The kids ride their bikes there, ride the golf cart
Oh,
there.
that's awesome.
So it works out really well for us. We do have chickens at our house. We have dogs at our house, but we have majority of our animals out there.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great way for kids to grow up.
Oh yeah. Well, it teaches responsibility. Every year at our local, so we do prospect shows. We show all over the state of Florida.
Explain what a prospect show is.
So a prospect show is where you take your animal, one class, they judge the animal itself on its build, its structure, its coat, its hair, the whole deal, how you groom it, everything is focused on the animal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another section on it where it's focused basically on the child, how they handle it, how they show it, how they, handle this 1,200-pound cow. And it's pretty cool. So the child gets judged, the cow gets judged, and then awards get given for both. And then at the end of, you do that throughout the year. And then at the very end of the year, you go to your local county fair, and then we'll do the same process all over. They judge the animal, judge a child, and then they have an auction. So you usually sell your pig, you sell your steer, and then, it kind of works out like that.
And are your kids doing okay with selling the animals and stuff like that? That was, I'm such a wimp about that type of thing.
So I think the first year or so is the most difficult for them.
Yeah.
You could tell which kids their first year is 4-H because they're in the pen, laying with their pig before it gets taken off, or the cow. But now they realize, it's a great teaching tool to show them where our food comes from, to show them, the work that goes into that, and then also the money management end of it. So part of it is keeping records of your feed, keeping records of your, grooming expenses, your veterinary expenses, so it's not only a financial teaching tool, but also a responsibility teaching tool for them. Cause you have to feed our cows twice a day. Mm-hmm. So you go out 2 separate times. They need to be groomed multiple times a week because they are show animals. So you're washing them down, conditioning them, blowing them out.
Yep.
There's a lot of work involved in it. So it also teaches them that, you put in some hard work and you get rewarded at the end of it with a little payday,
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't know there was kind of all the business management side of it, but that makes a lot of sense.
So there's actually an award given for record keeping. So
oh my God.
At the end of it, it's like
there's something for everyone.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's record keeping, there's grooming, there's all the show stuff. So it's very cool on the financial end of it because it breaks it down. Like, a lot of kids see they make X amount of dollars at the end of the year and they're like, oh wow, I was like, actually,
you see the little Scrooge dollar signs.
Oh yeah, they're just seeing dollar signs roll through their head, and it's like, well, actually, we paid this amount for the animal, you paid this much in feed, and then break it down for them, and so it works out really well. And it's also cool too because 99% of the time it's a local business here in town that's buying that animal from you. So it's cool. It's another community thing. We buy chickens and pigs every year. So it's very cool.
You are raising young entrepreneurs because they are also learning how to keep records and manage money and all that type of thing. Yep. Are any of them involved in the businesses on Main Street?
Yes, my middle daughter, she works on Fridays, sometimes Saturdays. Whenever she has a break in her schedule, she'll come in and scoop ice cream, and it's pretty funny. You see a 15-year-old little girl that's you know got better. I hate to say it sometimes, but has better customer service skills than some grown adults you see in some businesses.
Mm.
I don't know if it's I don't think it's part just because we own it, but I think it's just speaks to her character on how you treat people, and it's very cool to see, explaining flavors, or oh well, this is our best seller. She's a very good saleswoman.
She's a good salesperson.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
for sure.
Yeah.
So that's nice to see.
Well, I'm sure she's watched you and your wife too in action, and
Yeah.
it's children are great at parroting what they've seen in action. Yeah.
And no, it's very cool, and then my 4-year-old's over in the corner like painting the windows with ice cream. So that's it's just it's her doing
balance, right? There's balance.
Doing cartwheels down the sidewalk or something, so
he can be the live entertainment later.
Oh yeah. It's really something, that's for sure.
Well, if we want to shift gears a little bit, you've been living and working in this community for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a lot of opinions about what Vero should be or shouldn't be or could be or would be. Do you have any thoughts about kind of, the next 10 years, whether it's downtown or Vero as a city as a whole?
From my perspective, in my opinion, I like the small town aspect of Vero Beach. Just in the 35 years I've lived here, we've seen it grow tremendously. And talking to a lot of my friends' parents and grandparents that have lived here their whole lives, it's grown tenfold. So 43rd Avenue was out west at one point, to them. So it's just I like the growth. I just don't want it to become a West Palm Beach, if that makes any sense. I don't know. Hopefully there's like some sort of middle ground where we could still expand and grow as a community, but not take on some of these projects that
attributes that are less desirable in other places.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a tricky balance though, and I understand that, because what makes it attractive is why people move here, but then everybody's got ideas and hopes and dreams. And
I don't know. I enjoy the small town. I like going to a Vero Prime for dinner, or I like going to a Bobby's for dinner. I like Blue Agave. I love going to these family owned and operated businesses on our free time. And I just hope it doesn't turn into we have to go to a Longhorn Steakhouse, or we have to go to a franchise place because the little guy can't afford the frontage anymore. Kind of
right
is my whole my stand on it.
Yeah. The more time I spend down here, the more it really does feel kind of like you're living and working in your own little neighborhood. Like you get to know your neighbors, and then you see each other on the street, and their problems kind of are your problems. There's a lot of sharing back.
I think I'm down here more than I am at home. So,
well, yeah,
that's a
you're running two businesses. That's not surprising. So the last thing I wanted to ask you about is you've kind of been on like a health journey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to share anything about what prompted that? Or
sure. Yeah. About a year ago in June. I'll back up a little bit. Before that, about 8 months before that, my sister passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So she had epilepsy and had a seizure, and just, it was terrible, very unexpected.
Yeah.
And then about 10 months later, my father passed away. So,
oh, gosh.
Oh yeah. So for me, it was just like, I did this whole health journey about 4 or 5 years ago where I lost a bunch of weight and, was very extreme with it. And then it kind of all just stacked back on. I, gained weight again, and, we had another baby, we opened another business. So it was a lot of eating out. It was a lot of, just convenient stuff.
Yeah.
And then after that whole deal, I was like, you know what? I need to get my health in check. My wife's very fit. Her whole family's very fit. They're all Division I athletes.
Oh,
like,
the pressure.
Oh yeah. I was the fat guy at the family event. So for me, it was like I really want to get my health in check for my kids. We have
Mhm.
5 children. I want to be here. I want to be here for a long time. So I got back into a very good routine. Got a proper diet that's sustainable. I'm not just chicken rice.
Right.
Um, so between cardio 5 days a week, and I just started some weightlifting classes, and yeah, it's going pretty well. I feel good, and
Yeah.
yeah, getting
You look
stronger.
great. You
Thank you.
have a lot of energy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You just
So
keep adding more projects to the plate. So
that's it.
something must be working.
Yeah, I'm actually in August. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, if anybody watching that isn't IRSC can get me into the EMT program a little quicker than
Okay, shameless plug,
yeah,
people.
shameless plug,
Help a guy
IRSC,
out.
get
Yeah.
me in. But yeah, so my wife's stepfather, he was a fireman in Indian River for 35 years. My uncle was a New York City fireman for 30 years, so that's the route. I wanted to be a fireman at one point when I graduated high school, and life just kind of takes you on a journey, all the way around the sun. So for me now, both our businesses are kind of on autopilot at the moment, and that's my next endeavor. Is signed up for EMT school, and then we'll do fire, and then hopefully paramedic, and get hired on Indian River County uh, Fire Department. So that's kind of my goal for the next year and a half.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Even after living and working on this street for 10 years, you still want to save the people.
Yeah, hey, I'm trying.
That really says something. Sometimes when you're in a small town, you're in such close proximity to people all the time,
Yeah. I was speaking
it's
with
like a family,
it is, and I was speaking with a customer of mine the other day, and he's a fireman. He was telling me, he's like, it's a little different. You show up to these things, and you show up to a health call or an emergency call, and it's just somebody you don't know. Of course, you're giving 100% effort into it, but when it's somebody you went to school with's grandmother or their mother or their kid, and you put forth 110% effort into it, and you save their life, or you save, he's like, there's the satisfaction of that, and the gratefulness of the community and that person is, it's a feel good, and it's also, you feel like you're doing something for the greater good.
Yeah. Yeah. It really changes the purpose when you get up in the morning a little bit.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
not only we all impact whoever we're encountering throughout the day, right? But then it's like in a small town, you get to see that impact. There's like this ripple effect that's very visible all
Oh
the
yeah.
time.
And that's it. It's like we have a lot of customers that are police officers and sheriff's deputies and firemen, and just listening to some of those stories, and listening to, some of them not so good, some of them are great. So it's just it's a very accomplishing feeling that if, we get through this, and it's something I get hired on to do, I think we, do a great job at it. And I think that's something, my mother taught me, is like, you start a task, you finish it. You always try to, just see everything through and do it to the best of your ability, and good comes out of it, So that's
Yeah.
what we're shooting for.
Well, I do think hard work always pays off. And I think people's intentions always kind of come back around. So I think you're doing both of those things in the best possible way and setting a really good example, I think, kind of for that next generation.
Well, thank you.
Anything else you want to share with the people that's coming around the corner? Come visit you at the barber shop and the ice cream shop. And don't set your house on fire, but if you do, they might see you.
Yes. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I just encourage everybody to come down here and support the local downtown businesses. We are a little tight-knit community that everything's within walking distance. You may think there's no parking, but we have a giant parking garage over here.
Absolutely.
We also have other parking lots very accessible to the businesses, and everything's in walking distance. So find one of those spots and go visit your local restaurants and boutiques, and your ice cream shops, your barber shops, and just keep the life going down here.
Yeah. We have some new businesses that have come in like the last 6 months down here. So if you haven't been down in a while, come check it out. Take a walk down the street.
That's it.
Yeah. And like Joey said, there's a lot of parking options.
There is. Don't let it deter you, because I bet that's the number one thing people say. Well, there's nowhere to park. There's definitely areas to park.
Here's the thing to remember. Like in the suburbs, there's a huge parking lot in front of the business. in any downtown in all of America and in Europe, right? You have to park someplace else and then walk to your destination because all the storefronts are right on the street. And that's what makes it fun to wander down the street and shop and window look and whatever, right? So, but yeah, you have to put a couple of steps in. There's a lot outside of Jetsons, right down by American Icon.
Across from Blue Agave, there's a lot.
Yep. There's parking back behind the Arbor Center. Mm-hmm. There's paid parking lots. There's the parking garage is always free, always empty, always has spaces.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there is a lit walking path on the south side of the courthouse. So if it's nighttime and you don't feel, you feel a little uneasy, take that south side. It's always lit and it'll lead you right down to 14th Ave.
Yes. Easy breezy.
That's it.
All right, guys, come visit Joey on Main Street and check out all of his different locations. And then also support their Family Fun Day. And we'll see you guys next time. Coffee, Cocktails, and Capitalism.
June 14th. Be there.
June 14th, be there or be square.
That's it.
All right. Bye, guys.